you families. So if you're watching this video, this is a video that we're going to be going through our contract more in depth of our health warranties and our service agreement to you as a family who is purchasing a puppy through us. It's going to have a lot of details. It's going to be a little lengthy, but if you are already purchasing a puppy or you are interested in the process that we go through, this video is for you. If you are just looking into some more details and wanting to know a little bit more about our dogs, this is probably not a video for you, but we encourage you to stay through this whole video if you're looking for information on this contract, and we're excited to walk through this with you. So when you come to pick up your puppy, one of the first things that we are going to have for you is a folder that looks just like this. And there's going to be many things inside of it. The first thing that is going to be noticeable to you is this contract, which is a health warranty and service agreement between you as the customer and us as the breeder. And this is just a sample contract that I'm going to go over today for you so that you understand what is in here. Those of you that are purchasing a puppy through us, you're going to be receiving this contract through a third party called Sign Now. And this is a company that we work with to have this signed electronically. And so it'll be all of the same information. It'll be the same agreement between you and us. But we'll be able to sign this electronically and have this all ready to go for the day of puppy pickup. So one of the first things that you will notice at the top of the contract is that there is information about your specific puppy. So that is the date that the puppy was born, it is who the mother and the father are, the breed of the dog, which will be an Australian Labradoodle, and any other pertinent information that we have on there in regards to the dog. In addition to that, a little bit below that, we're going to have information about when the puppy was vaccinated, what that puppy was given as a vaccination, as well as when they were dewormed. And so it's helpful information for you because even though we have that information for you on a vet report that's going to be coming to you, this is kind of your records, your copy for you to understand the puppy that you're receiving and contractually what they were given prior to them coming to you. So that is kind of the first step of the contract, and it kind of lays out the precedents for the rest of it. So the first section that I'm going to be going over is it states that we would like you to bring in your new puppy to a vet within 3 days of you receiving that dog from us. And we remind you of this very early on in the process so that you can schedule that with your vet and make sure that you find a date that works for not only your vet, but for you within that 3-day window. And the goal of this is not for the puppy to be revaccinated. By the time you receive your puppy when they are 8 weeks of age, they have already received a vaccination. And that is one of about 3 or 4, depending on how your vet does the full vaccinations. And they will not need another one at that point of 3 days. The only point of this visit is kind of like a well puppy check-in, where they are going to be verifying what our vet has stated, that the puppy is in perfect health and is doing really, really well. And it is a chance for you to have peace of mind that you're receiving a quality dog and that your vet agrees with our vet that there are no concerns or long-term issues that may be popping up. So at this stage, it's a very quick vet visit, and it's just a time for you to connect with your vet, establish some care for the puppy, and at that point, they will set you up for further vaccinations and a whole schedule of what they're going to want for that puppy going forward. More than likely, puppies are not going to need another vaccination until they are around 11 to 12 weeks of age. So if a vet ever at this point at 8 weeks of age, when you're taking them in right after getting them from us, would like to give them another vaccination, advocate for your puppy and say no, that you would not like that at that stage, that they don't need it, that they were just vaccinated prior to going home. And we'll have all that information for you. But that first line of this contract is just stating that we want you to take that dog in within 3 days. If something were to pop up within those first 3 days, when you go to that vet visit and that was not listed on our vet report from our vet, then that's a chance for you to reach out to us and begin a dialogue conversation of what your vet said and find out a little bit more information. And if you are dissatisfied at that point with your puppy, then we would have a discussion about returning the dog and other scenarios that might be available to you, from a refund to finding another puppy for you. So that is never our intention, and that very rarely ever comes into play. But we stand by our dogs and the health of our dogs. We want to make sure that you are confident and comfortable with the dog that you're getting, which is why we are asking for a vet visit within 3 days. So the next section that I'd like to go over is about our health guarantee when it's related to genetic issues. And so for the first 2 years, what we do is we cover anything that genetically could pop up. And things like that could be diseases, or if a vet says that maybe something isn't fully formed right, like the urinary tract or something isn't fully formed, and so your dog is having some incontinence issues because of that. All of these things would be extremely rare and very rarely come into play with our dogs and the health testing that we do, but we stand by our dogs so strongly, and we believe so strongly in the health of our dogs and the puppies that we are producing that we stand by this health guarantee. And so for the first 2 years, if anything were to pop up, then we would enact our health guarantee, and I'll get into that a little bit later of what that looks like. But anything that is not fully genetic or that is environmentally based. So for instance, if your vet were to bring up that your dog looks like they have what's called base narrow canines, where their teeth might not be shaped the right way and they might be poking into the roof of the mouth a little bit or not, every puppy has puppy teeth. And so the goal is that those teeth fall out, and then we see what the adult teeth are doing. Now, if the adult teeth are growing in around 6-8 months and they are poking into the roof of the mouth, and it's very significant, then we would chat with you about that and what that looks like. Now, that being said, 9 times out of 10, if a dog is given a bone to chew on, play tug of war lightly with a rope or with a ball, almost every time the base narrow canines would correct themselves. So where a vet would want to pull teeth right away and maybe have a dog with less teeth, we've seen teeth continue to correct over time. So that's not something that we would necessarily jump right at to enact our health guarantee, but it's something that we would continue a dialogue with you and find out what's going on with your dog, what your vet is saying, and offering some support to you, some tips and tricks. And then if it doesn't correct, then we would want to go the route of vet intervention. But we're always looking at the holistic route and letting dogs mature and grow the best way that they can. So another opportunity that would arise when I say environmental is if your dog is around something that could be harmful to them. So if they're around harsh chemicals, if they're around unvaccinated dogs on a consistent basis, and they were to develop something that would be very troublesome, like worst case scenario would be parvo, if they were to develop that. That's not something that's genetically induced, that is environmentally induced, and why it is tragic, and we never want any of our dogs to go through that sickness. That would not be something where a health guarantee would necessarily kick in. And why I use the word not necessarily is because there's always an opportunity for us to understand the situation that you're going through and support you. So if a puppy were to go home within the first couple days and your vet were to see them in that 3-day window that I mentioned earlier, and they were to be diagnosed with parvo, that's a concern, and that is where we're going to want to talk to you immediately about when did symptoms start showing up. Was parvo maybe present when they were here, or was parvo present when they got to your place? And so it's something that we would want to talk about. Whereas if they develop parvo when they are 6 months of age, that has nothing to do with genetics, and that has nothing to do with the makeup of the dog, and more has to do with the environment that they're involved in. And so while we're going to get to this a little bit later, one of the things that I encourage you to do is to kind of puppy proof your house before a puppy were to come to you. Clean everything. Sometimes it's even a good idea where if you know where your puppy's going to be going to the restroom, even spraying some bleach solution out there to make sure that it is clean and full of clean ground that they're going to be going into, and not any parasites or any issues that could be there. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But this section of the contract, when it comes to the health guarantee, is us standing behind our dog and standing to support you and saying for 2 years we're going to support this dog if anything were to come up, and we're going to stand behind the sale that we've given you in a quality puppy. The next section is talking about us guaranteeing the puppy's hips and hip dysplasia that could come up. Anytime you're dealing with a larger breed dog, and an Australian Labradoodle, even if you are purchasing a small size from us, falls into the category of a larger breed dog because of the genetics that are behind them. And so with that being said, their hips can always be something that you need to watch. And so through the Australian Labradoodle's entire life, it's going to be something where you're going to want the vet to check the hips whenever they go in, just to make sure that the gait is going okay, of how they're walking, how they're moving, that you're not seeing any obvious wincing when they're walking, and that there is no hip issues. Now, that being said, I'm not wanting to breed fear into you or to make you think that by getting an Australian Labradoodle that there's going to be hip issues. In fact, the majority of our dogs have very little hip issues whatsoever. We screen every one of our moms and dads prior to them being bred to make sure that their hips are strong and that they're tight and that there are no issues whatsoever. But that being said, anytime you're dealing with a living being, there can be things that can pop up. And hips is one of those things that we always keep an eye on. So if in the first 3 years, there were to be any type of hip dysplasia that pops up, where a vet is telling you that this dog has a hip problem and they're going to have an issue throughout the rest of their life, we stand behind our dogs and we would enact our health guarantee at that point. And if they were to develop hip issues later in life, it's just like humans. Our bones can get a little creaky as we get older. Our joints can stop moving as smooth. And so if you have an 8, 9, 10-year-old dog that's starting to have some joint issues, or they're not walking the same way that they used to, that can sometimes just be natural of them aging, and there's supplements that they can take to aid with that. But if it happens early on in life, the first 3 years, that's more genetically based, and they don't have the tight hips that we are looking for in every one of our puppies. And so with that, we would stand behind that. Now with the last 2 clauses that I talked about, with the genetic disease and genetic guarantee that we have, as well as the hip guarantee and the hip dysplasia issue, if we were to enact our health guarantee, what that looks like is we talk to you as the owner and we work with you on what works best for you. And it's one of 2 options that we offer. The first option would be that we would offer you a puppy at no charge. That does not mean that you return the dog that you already have to us, because we know that you are already bonded with that dog, you are fully connected to that dog, and you're already in love with them. They're already a part of your family. And so we would not want to take that dog back and rob you of the emotions and the memories that you may have with that dog. So what we would do is we would offer you another puppy at no charge whatsoever from a future litter that we have availability on. So we would talk to you if you had interest in that, what litter may interest you from size and color, and then we would go through the process just like you did with the first puppy, but there would be no charge for that. If you think that one dog is plenty for you and you have no interest in a second dog, then the other option that we would have is that we would offer you a full refund of the price that you paid for the puppy, and that would go towards any vet bills that you may have or anything like that. We do not offer a health guarantee to cover any procedure or price matching anything. So it's not a health guarantee that would cover any specifics in terms of what the dog is going through. But what it is to say that if something were to pop up, then we will fully refund the money to you that you purchased for the dog. Now, in over 18 years of us doing this, our health guarantee has only been enacted a few times, and it's not something that comes up often because of the strenuous health testing that we do on all of our breeding dogs. And so while we have these clauses in here, it is not to bring about fear or wondering, am I getting a dog that may not be healthy? But another way to look at this is that we stand completely behind our dogs and that we are fully supportive of the dogs that we're producing, and we believe so strongly in who they are and what they have been developed into as an Australian Labradoodle, and we believe you're getting a quality dog that is not going to have any issues. But if they do have issues, then we're going to make that right by you and not look the other way while you're dealing with an issue with your dog. So we're in this throughout the dog's life, and we really mean that, to offer you support, offer you care, and offer you any insights that we can. And in the case of genetic disease or hip dysplasia, then we're going to stand behind financially those dogs and make sure that we make that right with you. So the next little section that we talk about when it comes to these health guarantees is saying that if the dog was to ever be rehomed, if you were not able to care for the dog anymore and it were to go to another family member, to a friend, something of that nature, we will not transfer this health guarantee to anyone else. So this is between you as the family who is working with us and us as the breeder, and it stays there. So if there were to be a transfer of ownership of the dog to someone else, then this health guarantee would go away at that point, even if it's within the first 2 years or 3 years for those health guarantees. The next section that I want to talk about is temperament. And you're going to see throughout this process, from the pictures that we send you to the videos, and then obviously on puppy pickup day when you receive your puppy, and you just see the joy that they have in them and just the fun-loving personality that they have, that their overall temperaments are very calm, very meek and mild, and they're going to differ a little bit from litter to litter, and even within that litter, puppy to puppy. It's why we believe so strongly in personality matches, and we go over this over and over and over again with our families. So if you're watching this video around the 7-week mark, getting ready to bring your puppy home, you've already heard me say this numerous times, that above gender, above color matching, above any specifics from an overall conformation standpoint from the dog. We match our puppies to personality matches. We know from early on little personality clicks that the puppy has, things that make them excited, things that make them sad, things that make them scared, things that make them get a little hyper. And we are evaluating them from birth all the way to 7 weeks when we do the puppy matching. And we are trying to find great personality matches, families that are looking for a more reserved dog, families who are looking for a more alpha dog, not necessarily to be the boss, but to be strong-willed and maybe enjoy things like hiking and adventures outside. I can tell you this, that every single family that inquires about a puppy is never saying, I want the most excitable dog in the litter, the one that is just playing constantly and never settles down. And I don't think I've ever heard that from a family. What we hear often is we want calm, relaxed, someone who will sit on the couch and just watch Netflix with me, a dog that will be laid back, that is maybe therapy quality, that I could train for therapy work or service work. You're looking for a dog that is going to be an amazing personality. And it's why we do what we do, because we believe that our dogs are amazing. We believe that their personalities are such that can thrive in your home. They are very much people dogs. They are wanting to be around you. They would much rather be with you in a car for 8 hours than they would be on a 2-acre backyard that's fenced, but be by themselves all day. Their goal is to interact with you, and you are their pack. You are who they want to be around and who they want to interact with, and that is their ultimate goal. And so when we are puppy matching, it's less about saying we're trying to find the right homes to take the excitable puppies, and more saying that we believe every single one of our puppies is amazing, but within their unique personalities, we want to find the homes where they're going to thrive the most. What puppies are going to do the best with children? What puppies are going to do the best maybe in a retired home? What puppies are going to do the best with a more sedentary lifestyle? What puppies are going to do better in an active lifestyle that is out and about often? And so within that, we are matching our puppies already to set you up for success. But what this next section is talking about in temperament is if you find that within the first few months that your dog is just not what you thought it was, they are overly excited, they will not calm down, they will not listen to you. Potty training is maybe a nightmare. They're biting, they're nipping, they're being aggressive, maybe they're growling at someone in your home, and you are at your wit's end. Well, we are here to support you, and please reach out to us. Please ask us for tips and tricks. We're going to provide you with training resources that we highly advise you to do. We're going to advise you to read certain documentations or certain books to set you up for success. We are going to push you towards possibly even puppy training classes or taking them to a one-on-one trainer. And while some of that is a little difficult now with some of the restrictions in a lot of our areas due to many things going on in our world, it still is possible, and there are still many things that can be done, as well as online training tools, which we will send you, that we highly encourage. And so our expectation is that you're going to be putting in a lot of work, that you are not getting a finished product at 8 weeks of age. You are not getting a puppy that is fully trained, able to walk into your house and be everything you hoped it would be right at 8 weeks. While we are giving them a lot of work and a lot of tips and tricks when they go home at 8 weeks, there's still a lot of work still to do. There's a lot of training that still needs to happen. They need to learn boundaries, they need to learn discipline and routine, and they need to learn how your house functions and things that you expect in your home. And the more that you are clear with them, concise and consistent, consistency is the biggest key. As long as you are doing those things, then they're going to learn very quickly, and they're going to be all that you hope they would be. But if you are finding within the first few months that this puppy is just not what you thought, and even pushing towards maybe a terror mode where they are running your house and they are just creating havoc everywhere, what we ask is that you take them to a specialized trainer that is going to evaluate that dog. And if your trainer is saying that some of these behaviors that are in them are genetically induced, and we feel like this dog is maybe bred to be aggressive or active or whatever the case may be, we would want to see that documentation. We would want to talk to the trainer firsthand and discuss what that looks like. And in that situation, within the first 6 months, if you are telling us that this dog is crazy and the trainer is agreeing that this is genetically induced, Then we would talk about a refund at that point and bringing the dog back into our care and finding a new solution for that dog with some training. Never in those situations will we ever put a dog down. I know that people ask us that sometimes of when there's issues like this, do you just eliminate the dog? And that is never going to be our stance. It is never something we're going to do. We believe so strongly in our dogs, and we will work with the dogs firsthand, and we will find a loving situation for them where they can thrive, maybe in a different environment. But we're never going to just eliminate a dog. That's not a choice that we're ever going to make. Now, that being said, in all the years that we have done this, we believe so strongly in the personalities of our dogs that everything I just said about a dog being a terror in your home, we do not see. If you are concise with your dog on the instructions that you're giving them, and that you are consistent with the routines that you're giving them. As long as you are doing those things and following the tips and tricks that we're passing along to you, you're going to have a ton of success, and this dog is just going to be the love of your life. And I completely believe that. So as long as you're following all of the steps to provide training for the dog, they're going to thrive. It is where they're left to their own vices that they're going to be a little wild and crazy, just like a toddler or even a teenager would be when they are younger and they're allowed to just do whatever they want. So boundaries and consistency are very important. So this next section I want to go over is a big section, and it's talking about spay and neuters for your puppy. And this is a section where there's a lot of opinions that are on this topic, and honestly, from year to year, vet opinions change rapidly. And so you may go to your vet and you may hear that they have a strong opinion of when your dog should be spayed or neutered. The key that I want to talk about here is by purchasing a puppy through us and signing this contract. This is a binding agreement, and part of this binding agreement is that it's going to be followed, and we're going to be very strict on it. And while we're going to be reasonable and work with you when certain things come up, or challenges with vets, or challenges maybe in your life and your schedule pop up, we're going to be very strict on these dates that we've agreed upon. And the dates that we are agreeing upon right now are that your dog is going to be spayed or neutered by 8 months of age. And there's not a lot of wiggle room in that within the dates that we are providing for you. It's very clear on the contract that we're going to be giving you of what days, what date it needs to be done by. And it also states in there that it's not subject to your vet's opinion. Now, when I say that, we want the absolute best for your dog and for the long-term care of your dog. We are not just after protecting our pedigree lines and not having unwanted puppies out and about due to accidental breedings. Our goal 100% is that your dog is safe, healthy, and happy all throughout its life. And we have done countless research working with not only breeders across the country, but also high quality vets across the country in many different states and specialists. And the date that we have come to of this 8-month mark is a really important date, I believe. It's long enough for a male or a female to have the hormones that they need running through their body for the growth and the maturation of the dog. And those are very important things. Sometimes when you are spaying or neutering a dog too early, they are not getting the needed testosterone through their joints for a male, or they're not able to grow to even the full size sometimes due to some stunting that can happen. And there's a lot of differing opinions on that, and some people will argue that what I just said isn't even accurate, that you can spay or neuter a dog at 7 weeks of age and that there's no concern. We actually did that for many years, and we didn't have hardly any concerns that popped up. But we have come to this agreement because we believe strongly that this is a quality date, that it is the safest for your dog. And if you allow a male or a female to become sexually active, so that would be a heat cycle for a female, or just a male getting to the point where they are sexually active and ready to find a female to breed with, then there's a whole slew of other health issues that can pop up. And ones that we believe can be stopped if you were to spay or neuter your dog by the agreed upon dates. And so you might have a vet that says, well, we really believe strongly that your dog should go through a heat before they are spayed. Or you might have a vet say that your male needs to be 1.5 years or even a year before they are neutered. And it's just something that we are not going to agree to. And you need to understand, by signing this contract, that you're agreeing to the 8-month date, and we're going to send reminders to you. Our goal is to never be forceful or change our relationship from anything other than supportive and joyful with you and the dog that you have from us. But we are going to be pushing the envelope with you to make sure that it gets done by that date and make sure that you are contractually following through with everything that you've agreed to. And so one thing I do want to bring up for those of you that are purchasing a male is we are okay with a procedure that is a dog vasectomy, that is not the full neuter, where the testicles are staying in place, which means the testosterone is going to continue to flow through the body. It's going to help the maturation process. It's going to help the joints, but they are not going to be sexually active. We are comfortable with that procedure and will fulfill this contractually if you provide proof of that. The only challenge with that procedure is they can still be sexually active. They're just not going to produce any puppies. And so if you are doing that procedure and choosing that procedure, you still need to keep a close eye on your dog, that if they're ever at a park or at a dog park, that they are not locking up with another female, because I would guarantee you that the other family would not enjoy that process either, an unwanted breeding at a park. But thankfully, if you have the vasectomy, that there's not going to be any puppies that are produced through that. So if you choose to do that, or your vet brings up the fact that they want your male to stay intact longer, then talk to them about a dog vasectomy. And if they don't offer that, I encourage you to maybe look around to see if there's any vets in your area that do offer that, even if you want to keep care with the vet that you are normally using, but possibly just going for a surgery at another vet. It's a procedure that is done often, one that we highly advise, and one that is very successful in what they accomplish through that surgery. Now, if you're purchasing a female through us, the absolute best thing for that female health-wise, and we believe strongly and are happy to talk more in detail about this with you, is that they are spayed prior to having a first heat. There are just so many things that can pop up in your dog, and things that are just not healthy for the female to go through if they're not going to be a breeding dog. And while there are a few minor benefits of possibly going through a heat, all of the negatives outweigh that positive by far. And so we just strongly believe in these dates of 8 months, and we're going to encourage you to get your appointments set and make sure that you're able to follow through successfully on this. If you book things out ahead of time, then it's very easy to make sure that you follow through on the contract. And so while this is kind of a big item in this contract, we don't want it to be a heavy, we don't want it to be combative. Our goal is to work with you as the customer. And again, as I said a few minutes ago, to be open-minded and also reasonable throughout this process, but we are going to be pretty strict with these dates and make sure that it happens. So the last item that I want to go over in this contract is, it seems kind of like a funny one. If you are getting ready to get a dog from us and you're excited about that dog, I'm sure that the elation of planning your trip over to us to get your dog is your full focus at this point. And so it seems a little odd to talk about rehoming your dog, or if this dog is not able to be cared for you long term. But life happens sometimes and things can come up. So maybe you have to move and you have to move to a situation where you cannot have a dog, or maybe a health issue pops up in your family and you're no longer to care for the dog. If anything were to happen in a situation like that, and you do not have a very close family member that is able to take the dog, maybe a child, or a sibling or something like that, but you're having to go find a home for this dog, and it's going to be displacing this dog from your home. What we write in here is that you would contact us, that you would give us the opportunity to support you through this process. We don't get anything out of this. We're not looking for another sale or more money or anything like that. It's completely wanting to support you and the challenges that are facing you. And so if you have something that pops up where you can no longer care for this dog and you're looking for a new home, reach out to us. We've been doing this long enough where our network of people is very large, and we would love the opportunity to help you find another home for this dog, and to find a situation where that dog is going to be loved and cared for in a new home that is going to bring some peace and some hopefully some joy to you, knowing that they're going to a good place. And so we would love that opportunity, no matter the age of the dog, even if they are late in life or they're a young puppy still. If you would give us that chance to support you through that and find a new home, we would value that a lot. And even if you were to send the puppy off to a family member's home because a life change happened in your life, sometimes we just value hearing that. Not that we need to necessarily be involved in all of your life dealings, but we would value hearing that, just knowing that the dog is okay, that the dog is cared for, and that the dog is thriving in their new environment. So if anything ever pops up down the road, feel free to reach out to us. I really mean what I said earlier, is that we're in this through the life of the dog, that we want to support you, offer you tips and tricks when possible. And maybe that's just updating us, once a year with a new picture and letting us know that the dog is still doing great. We love what we do. We love our dogs, and we love to hear from you, no matter how many years it's been since we've heard from you last. And I appreciate you sitting with me through this whole video, going through the contract. At the end of this, if you have any questions or any concerns or anything that you'd like clarification on, feel free to reach out to us, and I would be happy to go into some detail with you. Thank you again.